your favorite leadership coach with a sense of humor. Here, we talk real strategies for real leaders navigating change in work, in life, in love, and everything in between. Because when things get complex, we bring clarity. When life shifts, we shift stronger. So grab a seat, take a breath, and let's build legacy, one resilient move at a time. This is the Resilience Room, and this is Orville.
Good afternoon, everybody. What a wonderful Tuesday it is. Some of you are at lunch, catching that afternoon workout. Welcome to the Resilience Room podcast. We're grateful that you are tuning in for this amazing conversation about moving from resistance to resilience, turning pressure into power. And I'm your host, Orville. I'm glad to share with you today. Today, we're at a critical crossroads in leadership. In a world of unprecedented change and increasing complexity and mounting pressures, how we respond makes all the difference between merely surviving and truly thriving. When we're faced with pressure, our natural instinct is resistance. We push back, we dig in our heels, we fight against the forces that threaten our comfort and stability. And resistance takes many forms. Denial, this challenge isn't real, it'll pass. Rigidity, which says we've always done it this way, our way works. Defensiveness, which says it's not our fault, there's nothing we could have done. And avoidance, which says let's wait and see, someone else will solve this. But here's the truth that transformational leaders understand. Resistance drains our energy while solving nothing. Think about what happens when you resist pressure physically. Your muscles tense, your breathing becomes shallow, your body consumes energy rapidly while accomplishing little. The same happens organizationally when we resist change or challenge. We exhaust our resources fighting the inevitable. We miss opportunities that lie within the challenge. We fracture relationships with rigid thinking. We diminish our capacity precisely when we need it the most. But there's an alternative to resistance. It's resilience. Resilience offers us a fundamentally different approach. Rather than fighting against pressure, resilience allows us to work with it, to harness it, and to ultimately transform it. Resistance isn't passive acceptance. It's not surrendering. It's the dynamic ability to absorb shock without breaking, to adapt to changing conditions, to advance despite uncertainty, to transform challenges into catalysts for growth. So the resilient leader says, this pressure isn't happening to me, it's happening for me. And there are some steps towards resilience that we're going to unpack today. It is my honor, it is my privilege to have on the Resilience Room podcast two amazing, absolutely amazing guests who will come to us in their own way. First, we have Mrs. Adrienne Townsend Benton, who's a chaplain, an author, a podcast host, a resilience leader, one who has worked in a number of areas of leadership, and she's going to share with us about resilience in its principle and its practice. And then we have with us Gamal Alexander, who is author, consultant, speaker, comedian, and he has a special emphasis on how the message of resilience can be communicated in a way that helps leaders to transform, that helps organizations to press forward. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I want to encourage you to like, subscribe, to share, to engage in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Who are you? Where are you from? And what are your thoughts about moving from resistance to resilience? We'd love to connect and engage with you in the chat, even after our time together is done. But I want to bring to the stage now is Adrienne Townsend Benton.
Hello there. Listen, I'm super excited to join you on this platform and absolutely looking forward to this discussion this afternoon. So, today we're going to be talking for a little bit about the leadership lies that we're ready to leave behind. We're talking about moving from resistance to resilience. I want you to ask yourself, have you ever been told one of these three lies and you actually believed it? Okay, so number one, leaders never fail. Has anyone ever told you that a leader never fails? Well, what about number two? You have to be tough all the time. Do you believe that as a leader, that you cannot be authentic and transparent to those that you lead because you have to have this tough persona? I got it all together all the time. If you've heard one of these two, if you actually are executing and practicing one of these two, go ahead and put a one or a two or one and two in the chat. Here's number three. Once you make it, you'll feel confident forever. Do you believe that once you get the promotion, once you move to the next rank, once you get that supervisor position, you're going to be confident forever because you have arrived? How do we move ourselves from lie to truth? How do we move ourselves as leaders from resistance to resilience? Well, first of all, I want to invite all of us to let's normalize the fact that everyone fails. Everyone makes a mistake. Everyone does not always meet the mark, make the mission, reach the goal. And so we have to start off by asking ourselves, what is failure? Because we have to be able to understand fact over feeling. Understand it. Understand it. What is failure? We're told that failure is simply the inability to achieve a desired outcome, goal, or expectation, whether it's self-induced or whether your environment told you this is what must happen. Again, failure, the inability to achieve a desired outcome, goal, or expectation, and it's often perceived as a setback. What failure right now have you encountered? What appears to be a failure in the season of life that you're in right now as a leader that you're looking at as a setback? Because the truth is that failure is a natural process of life. And failure actually is a necessary part of learning and the growth process. You are not a failure because you have failed. You are not a failure because something in your environment has failed or someone on your team has failed. And so I have to ask this question because I want you to ask yourself this question. Why are we so afraid to fail? Why are we so afraid to make a mistake, not meet the mission or miss the mark? When we look at failure, we tend to look at failure in four categories. Personal, I did not meet my own standard. Professional, I fell short on the job goals or performance metrics or project outcomes. Social, I feel disconnected. I don't really get along with anyone or everyone is rejecting me. I'm not accepted by others. Moral, yes, I acted in a way that violated someone's ethics or someone else's conscience. Where in those four have you experienced failure? Or maybe you're experiencing failure, or maybe your team is experiencing failure or failed occurrences right now. We're talking about moving from resistance to resilience. The story is told of a farmer who had trees on his property that he wanted to chop down. So he hired a wood chopper. On the first day, the wood chopper chopped down 5 trees. Oh, this is great, he thought to himself. I see productivity. On the second day, he chopped down 4 trees. Okay. We're still doing good. Not 5, but 4. We can work with that. He's still being productive. On the third day, the wood chopper chopped down 3 trees. Wait a minute, the farmer's thinking to himself, what's going on? I see the productivity decreasing. So he calmly asked the wood chopper, why is your productivity decreasing? 5, then 4, and now 3. Well, the wood chopper looked at him and replied, I could chop down 5 trees a day, but my axe is dull, and I do not have time to sharpen it. Hmm. When was the last time you just took some time to sharpen you? When was the last time you just took some time to sharpen your team? Because when we allow failure to be what is the priority, then we allow fear, false evidence appearing real, to set in. And fear many times will paralyze growth. It will paralyze productivity. How do we see fear showing up? Fear shows up by playing small, not really allowing yourself to show what you really bring to the table. Fear paralyzes us because we avoid new roles or we avoid talking in the meeting room. We let everybody else talk, but we don't want to say anything at all because we're afraid. Fear shows up by overthinking and indecision. Fear shows up by burnout because we believe that lie that we have to do everything or we have to do everything perfectly. So when we look at fail, fail stands for find another important lesson. Oh, I love that. Find another important lesson. And we can do that when we remember that failure is not the opposite of success, but failure is a part of success. So anytime you stumble or someone on your team stumbles or your organization stumbles, instead of looking at it as in this is going to destroy us, you look at it in terms of what can we uncover here? What important lesson can we uncover that will move us forward? I want you to think about Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb. Thomas Edison made approximately 2,000 failed attempts before creating a practical incandescent light bulb. He is often credited with 1,000 failed attempts, but his records show more significant numbers. He didn't invent the light bulb in the sense of being the first to conceive it, but he improved the design significantly and made it commercially viable. Failure doesn't stop greatness, it forges it. So as we look to move from resistance to resilience, I want to invite you to, instead of asking, why did this happen to me? Ask, what is this trying to teach me? What would your workspace tomorrow, next year be like if instead of looking at challenges and failures like they're problems that's going to take us out, we have conversations and discussions. We open the room to look to see what is this challenge, this failure, this failed occurrence teaching us, and where can we grow through it? When we do that, we reframe failure and it creates room for curiosity instead of shame. Ooh, I love this. It creates the reframing for ownership instead of blame. That's right. It creates the opportunity for momentum instead of paralysis. Those 3 lies we started out with, they are lies. Number 1, leaders never fail. Wrong. Every great leader fails and grows through it. Hey, number 2, you have to be tough all the time. Nope. Strength comes from vulnerability and adaptability. I love John Maxwell in his book, How Successful People Lead. He says that authenticity is the foundation. Be authentic with your people. And lie number 3, once you make it, you'll feel confident forever. Spoiler alert, confidence is built daily. It's not a once and done. There's a Japanese proverb that says, fall 7 times, stand up 8. Resistance to resilience. Remove the lies and stay in motion. You're in motion because you're growing. We're in motion because as leaders, we are always being stretched and we're stretching into something new. So right now, go ahead and grab your notebook. Right now, open up your notes app and write down this question. What's one failure I can revisit today with fresh eyes to uncover a hidden lesson? That's right. You want to uncover the hidden lessons in this season right now. And let that reflection be your permission slip to heal, to reframe, and to rise. And most importantly, remember, you're doing something brave enough to risk not getting it right the first time. Why? Because we continuously are moving from resistance to resilience.
Wow, Adrian. Wow. Just the way you unpacked it, for it to be so practical, for it to be right at ground level. And I know that the people who are watching, who are listening, who are going to take this in, are going to be able to pull from it strategic and measurable ways forward. This was just absolutely amazing, moving from resistance to resilience. It's Zig Ziglar who said that failure is an event and not a person, which means you may have failed at something, but you are not a failure. And the truth of the matter is, as Adrian stated, we all fail at something. I've got failures, you've got failures, and it's not what happens to us, it's how we respond to it. And the truth is, failure happens personally, it happens organizationally, it happens in a family unit, it just happens all over the place. And so, how do we communicate resilience? How do we communicate what happens and how we respond to it when we face pressure? How do we have the type of healthy communication that's both transmitted and received? I'm loving this, so I don't want to take up any more time. I want to move to our next presenter, who I have known for forever, and we go back like four flats on a Cadillac, and even Adrian, we go back to New York, Linden Boulevard. But I'm glad to have Gamal T. Alexander in the room with us today, and he's going to share with us how to effectively communicate a message of resilience. Y'all give it up for Gamal as he comes at this time.
Thank you. Listen, everybody admires the comeback kid. But what if I told you that resilience is less about strategy and more about story? Well, I'm Gamal Alexander, and I equip teams for alignment, leaders for inspiration, and organizations to lead with clarity and purpose through the power of story. And for the next 10 minutes or less, I want to give you 3 stories that every leader must tell after a setback. Speaking of setbacks, we've all had them. Although we probably have never had a setback quite like the British did. In 1940, they found themselves in Dunkirk. That's in the northeastern part of France. And they were surrounded by German soldiers with no way to retreat. Over a 4-day period, over 338,000 of them had to be evacuated in what was widely perceived to be a miracle, but also a setback. But Winston Churchill, the prime minister at the time, didn't let this stop him. No, he seized the moment to reframe the pain. And Churchill used the opportunity to tell a story that we remember to this day. We will fight on the beaches. We will fight in the fields. We will never surrender. What a powerful, powerful story. You're no Churchill. I get it. And what you're fighting is far less dangerous than any Nazi soldier. But from time to time, you will have setbacks. You are going to set goals as a leader and you will not succeed. So, what do? What do you do when you have challenges? What do you do when you have setbacks? Well, I'm going to give you 3 stories that you need to tell in order to help your team not only bounce back, but spring forward. Here they are. The first story is the story of what we should know from here. An honest assessment goes a long way. As they say, after all, you can't manage what you can't measure. And so, whenever you and your team encounter a setback, the first thing you ought to do is to take a step back and analyze, try to get to the bottom, try to discover the truth. Those of you who are like me and are trying to lose a few pounds know that the truth can set you free. The first thing that any nutritional coach is going to ask you to do when you start a transformational weight loss journey is they're not going to ask you to go to the gym. They're not going to ask you to buy new outfits or get more equipment. They're going to ask you to track your calories, because if you don't know exactly where things went wrong, then you won't know how to set them right. As you step back and assess where your team fell short, as you step back and analyze where you failed, are you truly counting your calories? Or are you skipping over snacks? Are you missing meals? Are you painting a glossy, rosy picture of what happened in the first place? Remember, you can't manage what you do not measure. You've got to tell the story of what went wrong. First story, what should we know from here? Second story, where should we go from here? Clarity reduces chaos. And if you're in leadership, you want to reduce chaos by telling stories that set a clear direction, because a clear direction is going to calm your team. If your team can trust that you know where you're going, then they're going to have a lot easier time following you as they tackle what's next. I'm on planes all the time. I get on planes all the time. And I can tell you that the most comfortable I am with a flight that has turbulence is when the pilot can announce it before it happens. Why? I figure that if the pilot knows what's coming, even if what's coming is bumpy, then if they know it and they're okay, then I can relax because I'm going to be okay. There's a confidence and a calm that I get when the person in charge knows what's coming next and could communicate that to me clearly and confidently. And you, as the pilot, need to be able to do the same. You need to be able to convey and communicate confidence and calm to your team. Tell the story of where we should go from here. And then finally, you've told the story of what we should know from here and where we should go from here. But lastly, I want you to tell the story of how we will grow from here. I wasn't alive I was small. I was alive. I was small when Ronald Reagan challenged Jimmy Carter for the presidency. But history tells us that Reagan won largely because he was able to tell the story of how America can grow as a nation. Times were tough. The economy was down. People were feeling the strain in their homes. People were feeling the stress in their pocketbooks. And President Carter told the truth. He relied on his integrity as an honest president to tell people exactly what was. But as a leader, although the story of what is important, we can't stop there. The story of what is has to give way to the story of what can be. When Ronald Reagan took the stage, he told the story of not just where America was, but he told the story of the potential America had as a shining light on a hill. He pointed the country to where it could be, and the country followed him. That vision lifted him to victory. And communicating a clear vision can do the same for you. If you can tell the story of what we can know from here, of where we should go from here, and how we should grow from here, then you will tell 3 stories that will energize your team through any comeback. So there you have it. 3 stories every leader should tell after a setback. And if you're ready to be equipped to tell these powerful stories to your team, then reach out to me. Let's start transforming the way you communicate. Let's harness the power of story together. Thank you.
Wow, Gamal, absolutely amazing. These notes were just so many. I don't know about you in the chat. I don't know about you, Adrian. There were just so many nuggets. The story of what you should know from here, the story of where we should go from here, the story of how we can grow from here. Thank you, Gamal, for helping us understand how our messaging can influence our resilience. And what I loved is the synergy of the information being shared today. I loved it. This is amazing. This is outstanding. And as we get ready to turn the corner and wind down, I want to encourage and inspire a leader, a team, an organization to consider that resilience needs to move from self to system. That true resilience extends beyond individual capacity to organizational culture. So the resilient leader builds distributed intelligence, which is where problems are solved closest to where they arise. The resilient leader builds psychological safety, spaces where people speak truth without fear. The resilient leader is going to build collaborative networks, resources, and information flow to where they are needed. And the resilient leader will build learning orientation, spaces, and opportunities where every challenge becomes a lesson. And these elements create organizations that don't merely withstand pressure, they harness it for innovation and growth. And we got to think about this power paradox. Here's the paradox at the heart of resilient leadership. Power comes not from controlling circumstances, but from controlling your response to them. When we resist pressure, we position ourselves as victims. When we respond with resilience, we reclaim our agency. This shift from reacting to responding is where true power lies. So I want to give you 5 daily practices for resilient leadership. Number 1, begin with breath. Yeah, that's it. Start every day with 3 deep breaths, creating space between stimulus and response. Number 2, I want to encourage you to identify your sphere of influence. Take a moment to regularly ask, what aspects of this situation can I directly influence? And focus your energy there. Number 3, reframe challenges as questions. Instead of stating this is impossible, ask, how might we approach this differently? Number 4, cultivate deliberate rest. Resilience requires renewal. I'm going to say it again. Resilience requires renewal. You need to schedule recovery time with the same commitment and energy that you give to your most important meetings. And then 5, practice gratitude. End each day identifying 3 positive developments, no matter how small. This trains your brain to recognize opportunity within challenge. And this gives us the ultimate outcome we're trying to achieve, because leaders who master the shift from resistance to resilience transform not only themselves, but everyone around them. They create teams that collaborate rather than blame, organizations that innovate rather than entrench, cultures that energize rather than exhaust. Most importantly, they demonstrate that our greatest achievements don't come despite pressure, but because of it. And when we learn to transform pressure, when we do this, we learn to transform pressure into power. The path of resistance to resilience isn't always easy, but it is always possible. And in today's world, it isn't just an option for exceptional leadership. It's the essential journey we must all undertake. I want to thank you for joining us today in the Resilience Room podcast. Thank you to Adrian Benton and Gamal Alexander, our special guests today. Please follow, like, subscribe, share, interact with them, interact with me on my LinkedIn page at Orville Brissett, Instagram, OSB Coaching and Consulting, YouTube, OSB Coaching and Consulting, Facebook, OSB Coaching and Consulting. Listen, we would love to connect with you. We would love to engage in conversation that supports the journey moving from resistance to resilience. This is Orville Brissett. I provide support for individuals to gain clarity through complexity and leadership to legacy. Until the next time, signing off with my very special guests and my friends, Adrian Benton and Gamal Alexander. This is the Resilience Room podcast. Have a wonderful and resilient rest of your day.
That's it for this episode of the Resilience Room, where leaders like you learn how to bend without breaking and turn transitions into triumphs. Like what you heard? Follow us on Instagram at OSB Coaching and on Facebook at OSB Coaching and Consulting. Want to go deeper? Visit osbcoachingandconsulting.com and let's talk about how you can build clarity, confidence, and a leadership legacy that lasts. Until next time, stay grounded, stay growing, and stay resilient.